Clinch Capital here. I'm a small YouTuber. In this video, I'm going over the one finance habit you'll regret forever if you don't start it this year. This is your year to start. And what I'm going into is pretty much why you want to start doing this. And the biggest thing is, if you're watching this, you're probably younger. I'm guessing like 20 to 30. And what this is going to do for you is this is going to be your biggest asset and how to use it to build your wealth and make it so you can have financial freedom at a younger age. If you're in your 20s or you're even early, late 30s, you still have a lot of time on your side. This is something that's like unfathomable, how many people just waste their time when it's their biggest asset. You could literally take the richest guy on earth and he would not trade all his wealth to be 20 again. So what you have right now, if you're 20, is like the golden ticket, and a lot of people are just blowing it. So in this video, I'm going to go over what you should be doing and what I would do again if I was 20. And I'll give you some real life examples too. About 2 years ago, I started dollar cost averaging heavy into like the S&P 500 and just hard assets. This is something I wanted to do because I felt like I was a little bit behind financially. I've built my way up. I have a steady nest egg set up now. And this is all from consistently increasing my income and just constantly dollar cost averaging into pretty much the S&P 500. I got some Bitcoin and a few other things, but just find something. Don't overthink it. Just get something. I'm into metals as well. I have some silver, a little bit of gold. I really did good with silver last year. But what you want to do is you want to start finding hard assets that you can just consistently dollar cost average every time you get a paycheck. At my last job, I was getting paid out every week. My paycheck would really fluctuate because I had a sales job. What I did was I told myself every time I get a paycheck, 50% of it is going right to my brokerage account every time. And then I put 25% of that for a while. I would put 25% into something like SGov or a high yield savings account to build up my emergency fund. Once I had that emergency fund built out, I kind of started investing even more of it. But on average, I was getting 25% in straight up the S&P 500 and another 25% either in something like high yield savings, SGov, which is like government bonds. They pay out every month, and it's like short-term government bonds. You get about 4% interest there. But there's better things out there. STRC might be one to look into if you want to have a little bit of higher yield. But you need to start investing in hard assets, and here's the reason why. A lot of people don't realize this. I mean, it's becoming more common knowledge now, but the more dollars you have in your bank account, those dollars are essentially on like a fire, and they're just slowly burning to inflation. This is how I like to think of it. If I have cash in my wallet, I see it as on fire. Like it's just slowly burning up away. And what's happening is it's burning up to inflation. And the easiest way to explain this is you have money. The government prints out more money. Your money becomes more worthless because there's more of it. It's simply supply and demand. The bigger the supply of money in total, the less demand for it. You're going to need more money to buy the same stuff. That's why everything's gotten more expensive in the last 10 years. Gas prices are crazy right now. Groceries are crazy. Insurance, healthcare, all that stuff, it's gotten up. And prices, everyone complains about it. But all it is our we've gotten more dollars in circulation, essentially, at least here in the U.S. That's the big thing I see going on. And how you fight that is not by just constantly making more money or spending less or not going out to buy coffees. You need to own hard assets. When I say hard assets, I mean something like ETF in the S&P 500, VOO for you American guys. Even Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like a high risk one. I wouldn't dump money into Bitcoin if you don't have an emergency fund. You don't have like a good nest egg in the S&P 500 yet. But you just need to own harder assets. Even a paid off house or like a mortgage for a house, that's pretty good. But you want to start buying things that make money while you sleep, essentially. And what cash is doing, if you have cash in your wallet or your bank account and you worked hard for this cash, if you just keep it in a regular bank account, it's slowly burning away. It's getting chipped away by inflation. It's essentially it's on fire and it's just smoldering away as time passes. You're getting less buying power every day with your money. And that's essentially why you want to have hard assets. And the biggest regret that I see people do is they say they're going to invest later when they make more money. They're going to wait for the market to crash. They don't consistently invest. And the trick with this is it's just a simple system. You just put a system in place. For me, Here's what I did. I would dollar cost average, which means every time I got a paycheck, if I got $1,000, 500 of it was going into the market. Simple as that. I didn't care about my bills. I didn't care about my expenses. I would figure out a way to make those things work. If I got 1,000, 500 was going into the market. I'd put 500 in S&P 500 ETF like VOO. Another good one I would use is QQQM, especially if you're like in your 20s or even younger than 20. QQQM is like essentially the top 100 stocks. This is like a growth powerhouse. If you have time on your side, man, this is like a great time to be holding stuff like that. Now, another thing is if you're younger and you're like worried about investing because you're worried the market's going to crash, you should be hoping the market crashes. If the market crashes, that means your dollars now can buy you more of the market, more shares. You're getting more Bitcoin. You're getting more house. If the prices go down, that just means everything's on sale. You have time on your side. And the other thing that is like a big regret I see a lot of people make is people get complacent or they get lifestyle inflation. And these are two things that kind of fall hand in hand. A lot of people, they start making more money, so they automatically start spending more money. They get the new next best thing. They get the subscription. They get the premium. They get the new car. They keep up with the Joneses, as you would say. This is a mistake, in my opinion. What you want to do is be investing a bigger chunk of money into these hard assets. If you have hard assets working for you while you sleep, you can essentially retire earlier. You'll have more freedom. You can quit that job. If you have a year of money just sitting somewhere, you can have financial freedom at a much younger age. Freedom with finances gives you freedom to make choices you want to make. You don't have to work for that manager you hate anymore. And everyone wants to quit their job nowadays. It seems like I think it's like 80% of people want to quit their job. You can't quit your job if you don't have anything else in the back pocket. So essentially, this is why you want to own hard assets. Another one is like silver. Silver has gone up like crazy in the last few years. Silver historically has done really well. It's similar gains to gold. A lot of people hate on gold and silver because they say it's just a way to preserve wealth. But on a long enough timeline, it kind of competes with S&P 500. It's physical, and if you get enough of it, you can actually borrow against it. I don't want people to get overanalyzed on like what to buy. The idea is that just buy some sort of hard asset. If you want something safer, S&P 500, VOO. The Vanguard has a total stock market index. I think it's VTI or VT. And what I would recommend is like look into ETFs. Try to understand what ETFs are. ETFs are essentially, I think Vanguard was the person who started ETFs, the company. And ETFs are essentially a basket of stocks. So instead of buying one individual stock and taking a risk on a company like Google or Coca-Cola, you buy the S&P 500, you own 500 stocks, 500 different companies, diversified. If one company falls out of good grace to that 500, another one comes in, and you don't have to worry about it. You pay a really minor expense ratio fee. This is like on some of these funds, they can get high, but on VOO, it's a really small fee. QQQM has another really small fee. Check your expense ratio fee before you buy anything. But these ETFs, it's like a way to hold a group of a basket of stocks. You're making your risk go down by being diverse. You have a huge plethora of companies that you're invested in. And this just makes you money while you sleep. This is like a way to really just start compounding and generating wealth. And if you're young, you have so much time on your side. There's this show on YouTube, The Money Guy Show. They talk about this. If you run it through an investment calculator, you can see it's true on about 10% gains. If you have $1 when you're 20, by the time you hit retirement age of 65, that same $1 invested in the S&P 500 for that whole time turns out to $88. Now, as you get older, that number drastically goes down. I think by the time you're 30, it's like maybe $40 or $30. But my point is, if you're in your 20s and you're wasting money, or if you're not maximizing your income, that's the next thing I want to talk about, is absolutely trying to maximize your income. And a few tips on how to do that. For me, the easiest way, if you're like kind of don't have a good job, don't know what kind of job to do, don't have many skills, look into sales. Sales is something you can learn anywhere. There's so much sales learning material out there. I've sold real estate. I've sold cars. being a salesperson is such a game changing job. You really do get to like pick your income by how hard you get to work. It's going to fluctuate. Of course, there's going to be bad months. There's going to be great months though. A sales job will pay amazing returns compared to what you can get with most jobs out there. To me, it's like the only other alternative besides if you can own a business. Owning a business is another great thing, but that's going to require some capital to get started. This is where getting a job in sales is like a total game changing thing you can do. Get a job in sales, boost your income. Once your income is boosted, what you want to do, have enough money set aside for retirement, for emergency fund. I have a video on emergency funds. I'm not going to get into that right now, but you pretty much want 6 to 12 months of expenses saved up. After you got that emergency fund, the thing I would be doing, make a plan. Say, I'm going to like look at your monthly expenses, figure out what your average paycheck is and make a plan. Let's say you can deposit 50% of each paycheck into the stock market and you'll still be able to cover the bills. That's what you do. You're going to get the highest percentage you can. Let's say 50 for this example. And I'm taking 50% of each paycheck and I'm dumping it into like the S&P 500, some sort of ETF, some sort of hard asset, something that my dollar is going to grow instead of being like sitting in the bank account, getting hit hard by inflation and essentially just like slowly burning away my buying power. So that's why the biggest regret you can make financially this year is like not starting to invest, not boosting your income and not dollar cost averaging into some sort of hard asset. I don't care if it's Bitcoin, gold, S&P 500, a house. Just pick something and start with it. To me, the stock market is essentially the easiest. That's why I really like the S&P 500. You push a few buttons on your phone. You can have your money sent over. Unlike a house, you don't have to worry about like a water heater going out or a roof breaking. It's essentially just a job, a product, a vessel for your money where it's going to compound. Now, another thing with this is this money you're putting here, you want to have money that you're willing to just like let sit for like 10 years plus. If you need the money in like 2 to 5 years, I would not recommend putting it in the stock market. The whole market could tank 3 years and you could see almost zero returns if we have a couple bad years. So that's where you want to be, like have that emergency fund. If you're saving up for something like you do need a new car, you want to have a down payment on a house, put that in a different account. Maybe take your percentages there and say, I'm going to put 25% of each paycheck towards my down payment on my house. The other 25% is going to go in the market. But the biggest thing I see people doing is just not thinking about the future and not using time to their advantage. So that's all I got for today. If you made it this far, thank you.